The Council of Seven Worlds had faced many threats across the millennia. Asteroid storms, rogue AI networks, even the occasional interdimensional rift. But nothing had prepared them for the Devourer. It arrived without warning, a writhing mass of obsidian flesh and burning eyes that stretched across 3 star systems. Where it passed, entire civilizations simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, but consumed, their very essence absorbed into the creature's ever-expanding form. The proud Veltar Empire, masters of quantum warfare, lasted 6 hours. The crystalline Jex collective, who had turned their entire homeworld into a living computer, managed 8. Commander Zix-9 of the Altarian Defense Fleet watched helplessly as his world's orbital platforms fired everything they had. Plasma cannons, gravity bombs, even experimental dark matter warheads, all vanished into the creature's maw like drops of rain into an ocean. "Sir," his communications officer's voice cracked, "we're receiving a transmission from the Outer Rim, a single ship requesting permission to engage." "What species?" Zix-9 asked, though he suspected he already knew. Only one race was foolish, enough to charge headfirst into certain death. "Human, sir. Terran Federation vessel Defiance." Zix-9 felt his secondary hearts sink. The humans were brave, he'd give them that, but their ship couldn't mass more than a few thousand tons. The Devourer had already absorbed vessels 100 times that size. "Tell them," he began, then stopped. What was the point? His world would be dead within the hour anyway. "Tell them they have permission to try." The Defiance was indeed small, barely larger than a Veltar scout ship. But as it approached the Devourer, something unprecedented happened. The creature, which had been steadily consuming Altair Prime's atmosphere, suddenly paused. Inside the Defiance, Captain Sarah Chen stood before a device that shouldn't have existed, a crystalline cage containing something that made reality itself seem to flinch away from it. Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's xenobiologist and theoretical physicist, made final adjustments to the containment field. "You sure about this, Doc?" Chen asked, though her finger was already hovering over the release switch. Webb's face was pale but determined. The Devourer feeds on consciousness, on the ordered thoughts of living beings. It's why it targets populated worlds. The more complex the civilization, the more satisfying the meal. He gestured to the writhing shadow in the crystal cage. This is the opposite of consciousness. Pure distilled chaos from the space between dimensions. If my calculations are correct, and if they're wrong, then reality itself might unravel. But Captain, look outside. Reality is already ending." Chen nodded and flipped the switch. The thing that emerged from the cage defied description. It wasn't darkness. Darkness was simply the absence of light. This was the absence of existence itself, a hole in the fabric of reality that hurt to perceive. It flowed toward the Devourer like anti-water, carrying with it the screaming void between stars. For the first time in recorded history, the Devourer recoiled. The cosmic horror that had devoured entire worlds suddenly found itself faced with something far worse than death, complete and utter negation. As the anti-entity touched its form, parts of the Devourer simply stopped existing, leaving gaps that reality struggled to fill. A sound echoed across space, picked up by every sensor in the system. It took the universal translators several minutes to process it, and when they did, the result sent shockwaves through every civilization within listening range. The Devourer was screaming. Not roaring in rage or howling in pain, screaming in absolute primal terror. The sound of a predator that had suddenly realized it was prey. Captain Chen watched through the view screen as the cosmic horror writhed, away from the anti-entity, its massive form contracting as it tried to escape. But Dr. Webb had calculated the trajectory perfectly. The void thing followed, inexorable as entropy itself. "Please," the voice came through the communications array, somehow translated despite having no linguistic reference. "Please, small creatures, call back your horror. I will leave. I will never return. I beg you, make it stop." Chen looked at Webb, who nodded grimly. The containment field is still active. We can recall it, but this thing has consumed billions of sentient beings across dozens of worlds. Do we really want to show it mercy? Chen stared at the devourer as it continued to flee, its massive form leaving trails of its own dissolving matter in its wake. She thought of the civilizations it had destroyed, the countless lives snuffed out to feed its endless hunger. Then, she thought of what separated humanity from monsters. "Recall it," she ordered. The anti-entity suddenly reversed course, flowing back toward the Defiance like a tide of unbeing. It merged with the containment field and vanished back into its crystalline prison, leaving only the normal darkness of space behind. The devourer stopped fleeing. For a long moment it hung motionless in the void, as if unable to believe its torment had ended. When it finally spoke again, its voice carried something that might have been respect. "Why?" it asked. "Because," Captain Chen broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring every ship in the system could hear. "That's what humans do. We could have let it destroy you completely. But we chose mercy. Remember that, creature. Remember that the next time you think about devouring innocent worlds." The devourer pulsed once, a gesture that somehow conveyed understanding, and then it was gone. Not destroyed, but departed, retreating to whatever dark space between dimensions it had come from. In the aftermath, as rescue ships arrived and the Council of Seven Worlds tried to process what they had witnessed, Commander Zix-9 found himself staring at the small human vessel. "How?" he transmitted to the Defiance. "How did you know it would work?" Dr. Webb's voice came back, tinged with exhaustion and something that might have been philosophical satisfaction. "We didn't. But sometimes the only way to fight a monster isn't with bigger teeth or sharper claws. Sometimes you need to show it something so fundamentally alien to its nature that it has no choice but to fear you. The devourer feeds on order, on consciousness, on life itself. We showed it pure chaos, the antithesis of everything it understands." "And the mercy?" Zix-9 asked. "Why spare it?" "Because," Captain Chen's voice joined the conversation, "monsters are made, not born. Today, we taught that creature something new. Maybe next time it's faced with a choice between destruction and coexistence, it'll remember what mercy looks like." As the Defiance prepared to depart, its small human crew carrying their terrible weapon back to whatever secret laboratory had birthed it, the galaxy found itself facing a new and startling reality. Humanity hadn't defeated the devourer through superior firepower or advanced technology. They had tamed it through the oldest and most powerful force in the universe, the choice to be better than the monsters they fought. And in the dark spaces between stars, ancient things that had slumbered for eons began to stir, whispered warnings spreading through dimensions that mortals couldn't perceive. "Beware the humans. They are not what they seem."